What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to set some intentions this week? This one feels there's there's this is one I think a week to pay attention to. We got a lot of transits going on here. The sun is well, one, Mars is getting the hell out of Cancer and entering into Leo, which nothing against Mars in Cancer, but I'm good on that. Want some fire energy in the mix. Now I got Mars in Leo natally too, so I got a Mars return coming up here. But then we get some earth energy, which is lovely. We got the sun entering in Taurus. And if you are, depending on when you're watching this, happy birthday if you got your sun in Taurus. Happy solar return. This would be a great time for you, especially if you do have your sun in Taurus. So it's going to be coming up to be thinking about what house is this solar return falling up for you, what theme is going to be could be showing up for you for the year, what location do you want to be at to maybe to set up, because that's a really neat thing to do, to kind of play around with the location if you're wanting to focus on a certain theme and things like that. So that's something too to play around with the solar returns, or if you want to talk about that, down in the description box. We can set up an appointment and we'll go over all of those things. But yes, we get the sun entering into Taurus, and then we have Venus making her final conjunction with the North Node, and Saturn's going to be doing a conjunction too, and it's all happening at that same degree. There's a lot to unpack with these transits here, and we'll get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and one of the things that I do in this channel is talk about the Celestial News Weekly, the chit chat that goes on up in the sky, and I'm going to be covering the week of April 17th through the 23rd, 2025. So let's jump into it, because on a Venus day, the 18th of April, at about 9:21 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, Mars is entering into Leo, and it's like, yes, we're getting some, because I like Mars in a fire sign, especially when we're thinking, because now it's under the responsibility of the sun. This is Mars as a solar champion. And I think that Leo, when you think about Leo energy, it's the fixed fire sign, and they're active or yang in nature. And this is like letting that will, the fire energy of really be expressed, in Mars. I find where Mars can cause trouble is when it's being repressed. And right now, Leo is like an oven. And this could be where it's like, okay, you've been seeing how you've been fueling this oven, and maybe you want to change some of the wood, this metaphorical wood that we're talking about. This could be where you wanted to like make more time for just like more self-expression, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to necessarily just be like what you would expect creativity to be, but it can definitely be a great time for doing any sort of like music, arts, and things to just again feel alive, I think, and just to fuel the soul. And when we're talking about kind of like Leo energy there, I think this is great for that, a great way of working with Mars constructively. Now, the thing, though, I will say with Mars, because Mars is the lesser malefic, if there have been areas where we've been noticing any sort of like suppression or been repressing some sort of things, Mars and Leo can burn real hot, and it has stamina too, being that Leo is a fixed sign. So this could be something where you could feel the burn for a long time. And I was just even just kind of thinking in general, this would be, I think, a great time to just maybe do a little extra hydration, because Mars by nature is just kind of hot and dry. So that might be something to maybe even just paying attention to how we're moisturizing, paying attention to just like maybe like exposure to the sunlight. I think getting some sun, of course, always, to kind of feel, go watch the sunrise. If you can't do like a real hot sun, watch the sun rising or the sun setting. That can still be a great way of still welcoming in that light, while still respecting, the body, of course. But yeah, pay attention to those sort of things as well. I'd be mindful, just like any sort of like fire things, make sure we have just like good fire safety, keeping like water around and things like that if you happen to be doing like a bonfire and things. But yeah, just in general though, I think that Mars can, yeah, do very well in Leo when I think it has a healthy outlet, something to channel its energy in again, that it really expresses the will. This is beyond just kind of like ego needs. This is like the soul needs, the great work that we're doing. Now, on a Saturn day now. Let's continue the serious note because on the 19th, that'll be the 19th of April, at about 12:57 p.m. the sun is going to enter into Taurus, and this is very welcomed because we have been just kind of free floating for a while with all this. There's been like little touches of fire, of course, a little bit of air, but just a lot of water, and now we have something to ground this in. And Taurus is very fertile ground because now the sun is under the rulership of or under the responsibility of Venus, the Empress. And I find that Taurus energy is one. This can be a great time where Mars sure is kind of firing things up, but it doesn't have to be where it has to be like out the gate, coming in hot. This can be where, because I like to think of Taurus as like cultivating a field, the farmer kind of archetype, one that really is in tune with the natural flows of nature. And Taurus is a hardworking sign, but hard work doesn't have to look so aggressive. You know what I mean? I think that the sun in Taurus really can provide a very calming state. This could be, yeah, just a great time. I mean, just of the earth signs, I think that Taurus is the most grounding, just because they're the fixed earth sign. They're, again, ruled by Venus. And so, again, there's a lot of creative potency that can come with Taurus as well. So if you've been wanting to get things moving, wanting to get things manifesting. Again, this is going to be where we're taking our time with it. We can't rush a tree to grow, but the trees we'll start seeing signs, I think, of the work that you've been doing now that we're getting into Taurus, and really be able to get some, maybe kind of restored that hope if you've been just kind of been in the like feelings like, I know something's coming, I'm sensing something's coming, but like, what is that? Like, this is where the buds are starting to show, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? This could be where we're just like seeing results. And we'll see how we feel about it. That may create some tension, because let's talk about the next transit on a Sunday, the 20th of April. At about 6:34 p.m., the sun is going to form a square with Mars. And this is happening at 1 degree and 13 minutes. The sun, of course, in Taurus and Mars in Leo. Now, the interesting thing about a square is, as an aspect, this is one of the harder aspects. It can create this, sometimes frustration. This could be maybe some delays that might come up. This could be where we're called to need to do some sort of action is needed to be taken with the square. And this could be where, like I said, Mars is now in a fire sign. We're feeling more active, but the sun is in a more receptive energy of Taurus, where it's like trying to find the pace. And we want to see where you have Taurus and Leo in your charts, because that'll give you a better idea of what things are kind of coming into aspect here. Like, for example, I have a Leo rising. So this is going to be happening between like my house of self and my, these are angular houses that are happening for me. So this is like my house of self, and then like my achievements and things. So I may be thinking about like, okay, the things that I have been cultivating and stuff that I've been learning, what can I begin with that with Mars? That could be what the square looks like. Just for example, if you happen to have like a Leo rising, those could be some sort of things, or that's how you can work with those energies, or how you can think about that if you're just like, well, what do I need to ground? What can I ground right now? And you just want to, and that's something to look at too. Actually, while I'm thinking about that, now that we have a couple of planets that are going to, that have made recent ingresses, you want to see where you have Leo and where you have Taurus, because these themes are going to be lit up. And Mars is going to be energizing this area of your chart, and the sun is going to be shining a light here. We're going to be getting ideas and inspirations and things, that are going to be coming in with this part of the soul growth with the sun. So, and of course, sometimes it's like, what I think can happen is we feel that charge with Mars, but the sun is like, we got to take our time with it. This can't be something where you rush this process. Otherwise, I mean, you could, but it just like the results may not be the desired ones. Where if you just kind of take your time, enjoy the process in Taurus, really just kind of revel in it, find something. That's why I think looking at those things that kind of fuel you up with Leo can just make the process more enjoyable there. So yeah, that's just something to think about. And we're not really getting a break from this one. It's literally kind of just like back-to-back transits that are going on here. Because on a moon day, the 21st, and this is the interesting ones that are going to be kind of happening here. On the 21st of April, at about, I did not change. Oh, it's going to be at about 4:31 a.m. Saturn is going to be forming a conjunction with the North Node, and this is happening at 26 degrees and 50 minutes of Pisces. And I just mentioned these degree points because if you do have anything around these points, these aspects are going to be working with your chart more personally. They're going to be notice some very distinct things there. So that's something to pay attention to. So if you have any like Gemini, Sag, Virgo plays or Pisces placements, these are going to be something to pay attention to with that. Now, the interesting thing about this when we talk about just like Saturn, of course, is the disciplinary. But Saturn, I think, is not just there just to give us a hard time. Saturn, I think, is of the celestial body. Saturn's our biggest cheerleader. Saturn wants us to give all of this ideas, these concepts, these things. Wants us to give them form, especially in Pisces right now. And this, to me, is because when we're talking about the North Node, the nodes are where the North Node, you could think about it as this is where you're going. This is uncharted territory. I like to think of it as an area, wherever this is, whatever house this is transiting for you, this is an area that's needing just more attention, an area that's wanting some mastery. In order to learn, and in order to learn from that, that's where we look to the South Node. The South Node can be the past, where we call upon wisdom, but it can also be a comfort zone where we stay. Maybe could stay in a situation. So, but that's not the point of the nodes. It's always for this soul growth, and I just think that's just something to think about there. Where this conjunction is happening with the North Node, but at the same time there is an opposition that's happening with the South Node. There's an area where you may be feeling that you're wanting to change, and there's something that may be opposing that. Like you've been in a certain energy for a while. Let's say, for example, maybe you used to go out quite a bit, and now you're wanting to change that lifestyle. Maybe you're becoming a parent. Maybe you're wanting to just kind of buckle down. Maybe this is for health. This is whatever, spiritual reasons. But there's going to be that kind of tug of war there. In Saturn, it's fusing with that North Node. Like, okay, if you want this thing, you got to look at you got to look at where you've been and how you've been going about it. And if that's not been working, or if that's not been conducive to the growth or fulfillment, then you got to change it, because Saturn's only going to do this conjunction once. And then that's it. It'll be conjunct the North Node by a whole sign, but there won't be an exact one again, like Venus had 3 aspects to the North Node, which is going to be the next one that we talk about. But this is I think a really kind of pivotal point here of the transits. This is the one to look at. As far as like, where do you really feel like you're going? What does that visualization happen? I'm even feeling something like just kind of spark up as I'm talking about it. It's like, and it doesn't have to be where this is a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? This can, again, just to kind of ground it, look to see, like, this is going through my 8th house right now. So I'm thinking about my shared resources, legacies, mortality, and even just like I've been getting to like occult studies and things too. That's another stuff, like taxes, debts, womps, all those fun aspects of the 8th house. But it's been helpful, like I have a clear idea of where certain things are going, and I am pleased with a lot of things where I've been a little irresponsible. I've been looking back to my 2nd house, which is money. I've been doing this thing, but in order to accomplish this, I have to change some things, thinking about spending habits and blah, 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 blahs. So that can be just a way of thinking about how things are going to be going forward. You know what I mean? So, yeah, just something to pay attention. I think really keep an eye on this conjunction. But I want to talk about the Sabian symbol of this one, because this aspect is going to be really highlighted between both Saturn and Venus, because they're both forming conjunctions with this point. It's phase 357 of Pisces, and it speaks of the harvest moon illumines a clear autumnal sky. And so the harvest moon is usually around, like, oh goodness, I think that's when the moon is either in Virgo or in Libra. I'll have to look that up. But look up when the harvest moon is. And that could be where that could be a great marker to set like a checkpoint, because the harvest moon is where we're starting to, at least in the northern hemisphere, where we're starting to reap the harvest. where we're starting to see the seeds that we've sown and how we've tended to that garden, which is very appropriate for Taurus, how we've been tending to that garden or not, and what has grown in it. Do we have fruits and things and veggies and herbs? Or do we got some, little baby, like little miniature peppers that, like, are in weeds and things? And again, this is not, I think, an energy to beat yourself up on. This is just an energy to gain more awareness. Because with awareness comes more autonomy, which becomes more power, more self control, self regulation, even. But the keynote for this is the light of fulfillment that blesses work well done. And that's a beautiful thing, I think, that because Saturn is even though, like, you think about Saturn, it's heavy, it can be structured. Saturn is a very spiritual planet. The sort of things that, when you have to do those disciplines and you're going through those harsh times and you're like kind of calling on, it's Saturn puts you, really tests us in a way. But it tests us because Saturn knows what we're capable of producing, of what we're capable of forming. And it's when you put in that work that, because I find the only time that really, Saturn's the greater malefic. But the only times like where we're really nervous about Saturn is when we haven't been doing the work and where we've been slacking off, and that's all Saturn does. It's just like, yo, you can keep, like, let's say, for example, if I didn't do anything with my finances, it would just create a bigger hole. Like, it's just duh. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not something where I think Saturn doesn't have to just, like, strong arm you all the time. It helps you, I think, to approach Saturn differently. I think, like, you can relate to these malefics in a constructive way and see why things have been coming up and where your participation has been in it and what you can change about it. I think that Saturn can bring a lot of strength, but it just sometimes it can feel like the challenges. But I do think that this is acknowledging too that you have done a job well done so far. I think that it's with everything that has been going on and all the work that can be really kind of put up upon us. Like, you have to do this shadow work, you have to do this thing, you have to do that thing, and that's when that's not just including what you're telling yourself that you should be doing or that you could be doing. Release that for a minute. You know what? With everything that I've been doing, I'm exactly where I need to be, whatever that looks like. And I'm in control of that. And I know that because I've manifested this, I can do that again and do it differently. There's a release, a catharsis, I think, that can happen with this transit. And then let's just kind of get to the last one there, because it's sort of similar themes. Like, it's a very interesting energy, but it ends on a light note. I think, because on Mercury Day, the 23rd of April, at about 9:35 p.m., Venus is going to be forming her last conjunction of the last of three conjunctions with the nodes at 26 degrees and 54 minutes. And the interesting things that I wanted to mention too about this, the nodes do this very fascinating thing where they're retrograde sometimes and then they're direct sometimes. And it's interesting how they do that. And when I was looking up the charts, both in this scenario, the nodes are direct in this instance. So I really think that there's something here that's moving, whether we're aware of it or not. And I think that just invites us to be more aware of it, to acknowledge that things are different, now that there's something very palpable that's happening right now, that we're able to attract, paying attention to what you're attracting, the relationships that you're forming. Where is that going to take you going forward? Have the relationships that you've been in been helping these Pisces themes in your charts? That's something to think about. Again, like, where we're thinking about where we're going, we also have to think about where we've been. Otherwise, we don't know. We have no reference of where to go. We're just kind of flying blind, even though we got eyes open. So, I think there's something about thinking about that Venus opposing the South Node. What have you been attracting that has been hindering your job well done? Where you can do better, where we're seeing things, the moon is illuminating the sky. We can see there's nothing obscuring the view right now. And I think that this can be where you just, okay, this is what I want to bless myself with, because Venus is strong in Pisces. This is where she's exalted in Pisces, where her manifestation, her creative ability shines the brightest, where you can really just like, you know what, I'm gonna give myself all this love and show all these people some love for all the, again, all the stuff that we've been through, like not just as individual, but that we're going through as a collective. And I think this would be a great time to just to send love out there for wherever people are at on their journey and whatever that's looking like. That just ultimate compassion that I think it was just about to get me emotional just even thinking about it. You know, the Cancer sun, what you gonna do with me? But yeah, I think there's something beautiful that can happen with this. A really nice release, I think, that can come with this Venus conjunct the nodes. And know that we really are, I think, it may not always seem like it, but I think we are really we're all just trying our best with the tools that we're working with at that time, and whatever that means. It's not to excuse what's going on, but at least it's to help understand it more. You know, what maybe others might be feeling through. I think that's the power that real, true kind of empathy that I think Venus can bring in Pisces. And, you know, just thinking about how that individual work moves us forward as a collective when we continue to show up and then other people show up and creates this lovely ripple effect in the waters, you know. So yeah, something to think about, a lot to contemplate, I think, with these energies going forward. And I think that again, that there's going to be some tension, I think, with that, where there's this will, the sun is wanting this to be a thing, and Mars is maybe just be like, well, how? You know, like it's, yeah, a lot going on. But I think that it's going to be something, I think something beautiful is going to come from it. That's what I'm putting out there for sure. So yeah, that's all I got for you there. I hope you like that. And if you want to, yeah, just get a better idea of how these may be coming up in your chart, how to maybe interpret this stuff a bit more. Because, you know, the astrology, it comes with practice. You know, the more you look at it and observe these things, you see them more. And you see your participation in these certain things, and where, you know, that you feel less like an NPC and more just like a PC of a playable character. So, but if that's something that you want to, yeah, just follow these transits more and just get a better relationship, a stronger relationship, cultivate something. You know, in the description box, there's a link to get in touch with me, and yeah, we go over, we discuss my services, and just kind of go from there. And also on this channel, I do these videos, and I'm about to start getting back on track. I've been dealing with some things behind the scenes, but I have these planetary videos that talk about the celestial bodies in different signs and different houses, so that can just my thoughts on them. So that could be something too that may help you in your journey if you happen to have those placements. I also, if you want to work with the moon, since we talked about a lot of moon imagery in these Sabian symbols, there's a link from my other channel, The Chariot and Friends, where I just talk about the lunar astrology, what sign it's in, what phase, when it's going void, of course, and then I do a tarot and an I Ching reading in there as well, just a bunch of mysticism for you. So I have been enjoying that, but that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibration through the roof. I saw this woman that had this shirt that said mindful AF. Let's do that. And I will catch you on the next one. Mercury Day.